Hello chess lovers, I have a very fascinating game for you played at Berlin Candidates Tournament, with the white pieces playing Levon Aronian and his opponent is Vladimir Kramnik. Aronian started with e4 and e5 by Kramnik, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, we see the Spanish game, knight f6, Kramnik goes for Berlin defense in Berlin, d3, bishop c5, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, white castles kingside, queen e7, h3, preventing any possible bishop g4 moves, but at the same time this h3 move is making white's kingside vulnerable, and in this position Vladimir Kramnik made a powerful move. He played rook g8. After the game during the press conference he called this as a killer move. Actually, this is move 7 and it turns out that this rook g8 is a novelty prepared by Kramnik several years ago. Black has a very simple idea to push this g-pawn forward and start an immediate attack on the king side. For example, right now if a move like knight c3, though both pieces are controlling this g5 square, but anyways black can go for this g5, and if bishop takes g5 then bishop takes h3. If g takes h3 then h6, and this is going to be a very dangerous attack. But after rook g8 we see king h1 by Aronian. A prophylactic move is moving away the king from this dangerous g file. Knight h5, c3, and there it goes, we see g5. Knight takes e5. The idea is that if queen takes e5 then queen takes h5. White is just opening up the queen's path, but now comes simply g4, d4, attacking the bishop on c5 at the same time protecting the knight. By the way, if a move like knight takes g4, then after bishop takes g4, h takes g4, black has this queen h4 check, and after king g1, black can play knight g3 using the fact that the pawn on f2 is pinned and white king is simply getting checkmated. Let's go back. That's why after g4 we see d4, bishop d6, g3, trying to keep the king side closed. Bishop takes e5, d takes e5, queen takes e5 and queen d4, offering an exchange of queens, but of course Kramnik rejects. Queen e7, he needs this queen in order to attack white king. h4, closing the king side. c5, first kicking away the queen from this active d4 square. Queen c4. It turns out that this is not the best square for the queen. It was better to place the queen on d3 square, controlling this f5 square and not allow f5 by black. If bishop d7 then c4, if castling king side then knight c3, if bishop c6 then knight d5. Though black has an advantage, but of course this continuation would have been better for white. But instead after c5 we see queen c4, bishop e6, developing the bishop with a tempo, queen b5 check, c6, at the same time protecting the pawn on b7, queen a4, and it turns out that after this move white's position is collapsing. It was not too late to place the queen on d3 square, still covering this f5 square. If rook d8 then queen e3, though after bishop c4 again black has an advantage. But after c6 we see queen a4. Here comes that destructive f5. Black wants to push this f-pawn once again, f4, and rip open white's king side. Bishop g5. Well, if a move like e takes f5, then black has a powerful knight takes g3 sacrifice. If f takes g3, then black can start using the weaknesses of the light square. Bishop d5 check. If king g1, then queen e2 threatening mate in 1. If rook f2, then queen e1 check, followed by queen takes g3 checkmate. Let's go back, but after f5 we see bishop g5 by Aronian, and in this position Kramnik went for this powerful exchange sacrifice. Rook takes g5, removing that active bishop from g5 square and trying to open up white's king side. H takes g5, and instead of recapturing we see f4. Queen d1, the queen is coming to support white king, but it turns out that already it's too late. Black's advantage is just huge. Queen c1, we see f takes g3. Well, if f takes g3, then knight takes g3 check. This is just crushing. That's why we see knight a3. White is trying to somehow activate his pieces, but now comes the rook. Rook d3. Rook d1, trying to exchange as many pieces as possible. But here, Kramnik is playing another brilliant move. Can you find his next move? Ready? He played a powerful bishop d5 move. Look at this. Now if rook takes d3, then black has this queen takes e4 move. If f3, then g takes f3. If queen e3, for example, then f2, discover check, queen takes e4, bishop takes e4, and white king is getting checkmated. This is just a study-like mate. Look at this position. Let's go back, but after bishop d5, we see f3. G takes f3. This is simply crushing, but Aronian is still making some moves. He takes d5. Here comes the queen. Queen e2, threatening checkmate in one. But at the same time, this allows rook e1, pinning the queen. And here comes g2 check, and finally Aronian resigned. Well, if king h2, then g1 queen. If king takes g1, then f2 check. And then the rook is coming. If king g2, then f1 queen, and this is a checkmate. What a game. I guess this is going to be the best game of this candidates tournament. If you enjoyed this mind-blowing attack, don't forget to give the thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. More games are coming. Good luck.